So, thanks everyone for coming out tonight. Another beautiful Thursday evening in Montreal. No snow out there, but it looks like it's a torrential downpour. But it's feels like spring now versus the that final blast of snow we always get right when you think you're out of it. But thanks again for coming up tonight, everyone. I respect everyone's time, and it's always a um, effort to take time out of your busy schedules to attend a thing like this. So we'll try to make it worthwhile. So we got a fun schedule tonight. So we're joined by our friends at DefiSafety tonight to talk about DeFi safety tips. That's kind of the main agenda item. But before we jump into that, and before I introduce the team, let me just first cover off who I am. If this is your first event, I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'll give you the broader agenda for the evening, and then we'll pass it over to our friends at DeFi Safety. But first and foremost, my name is Houston Trung. I'm a full-time crypto trader. I've actually been trading for full-time for about 7 years, but started trading crypto full-time mid 2021. I've actually been trading crypto since 2017. Obviously, we all got into that big bull run in 2017, and I never stopped trading it since that point. But I finally made the jump to becoming full time in crypto in 2021. So prior to creating DeFi Montreal, the meetup group that you probably found this event through, I was the founder of the Montreal Traders Meetup Group here in Montreal, and we grew that thing up for up to a pretty good size. So that's it was a 5 year meetup, grew to over 1,000 members, and hopefully now what we can do is we can begin to transition some of those members from kind of traditional TradFi to the DeFi/crypto world, and that's kind of I think where the smart money is going. So if you want to learn anything about me or just want to just chat offline, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. There's my handle at Houston slash or XMTL. So let's talk about the purpose of the group here before we launch into the agenda. So first and foremost, let's just cover off some of the sort of the mission and the principles of the group. So the real purpose of the Montreal or DeFi Montreal group is to create a group of crypto, DeFi/Web3 enthusiasts with shared values, a shared desire in terms of outcomes, and a willingness to learn and exchange ideas. It's really all about the community. And ultimately, it's to advocate for a better world that serves our society by having a less centralized, not just banking system, but a more less centralized, kind of tech stack. But most importantly, the third thing there is to socialize and to network, to have fun. I think we've all missed this since being locked up for COVID the past couple of years. So I think hopefully sooner than later we're going to start doing these more often in real life again, because I know that once we can do these things in real life, we can find the right venues. I think ultimately it just creates for a more for a tighter community, and we're going to be able to to make better connections and to meet others who have kind of like-minded interests. So in terms of that mission statement, there's something that I've been thinking through a lot lately. It's just around crypto values. As the space has grown quite dramatically over the past couple of years, I'm seeing all different kinds of entrants now coming into crypto. I think in the 2017 bull run, a lot of people were there for the number go up technology, and I myself was one of those people. But if you stick around crypto for any given period of time, you begin to realize and respect that what this thing is built on is an ethos. Right, so there's a quote I put at the bottom of this slide here that Andre Cronje he put out last week in a Medium article or a blog post, and I think it's very valuable to think about. Andre Cronje, if you don't know him, he's a prolific DeFi builder. He was the one of the founders of Yearn Finance and a big advocate and builder inside of the Phantom ecosystem. But he put it like this. So he says, crypto ethos is a concept like self-sovereign rights, self-custody, and self-empowerment. And crypto culture is concepts like wealth, entitlement, enrichment, and ego. And the point that he was trying to make is that, unfortunately, sometimes depending on where you're in that bull in the crypto market cycle, crypto culture can sometimes overwhelm crypto ethos. And what we end up seeing is that we end up seeing a landscape that's littered with people who are chasing, who are mercenaries, and who don't really care about the core tenets of crypto or Web3. So I think as we build up this community, it's important that we stay grounded in these things, in the ethos versus just the culture, right? The ethos is a set of values versus the culture is flexing your Lambo or your NFT. That's fun to do as well, but ultimately, hopefully, what we're doing here is that we're building relationships, a community that can be built around shared values and not just flexing, because that doesn't create the same bonds. So I'll get off my soapbox and I'll jump over to the agenda now, and let's talk about the agenda for the evening. So we did the welcome, and in a few moments here, I'll introduce the team at DefiSafety. They're going to speak until about 7 o'clock. Feel free to ask questions as they present, or up to them. They might want to save the questions to the end, and then at the after the presentation, we'll take a small break, and then we'll do as we always do, we'll do a quick rundown around the crypto markets. I'll do a quick analysis of the fundamentals there, and do a rundown in terms of the stats around the DeFi landscape, and then we'll open it up at the end for Q&A if there's any Q&A or any kinds of questions you might want to ask at that time. So before I introduce the DefiSafety team, just one thing before we get going. So tonight I want to try something fun. I want to do a quick little contest here. So as the DefiSafety team is going through their presentation, I'm going to be listening in, and the three people who asked the best questions. So I'll pick the three, what I think are the three best questions, or maybe I'll ask DefiSafety team who has the best questions. I'm going to give them a small little reward. So it could involve, I'm not going to say exactly what it's going to be, but it could involve some tokens. I'm going to give you a hint there. It could involve some tokens. So think about, listen carefully to what they're presenting, and think of some good questions. And the top three questions, and again, the top three people who ask questions, I'm going to send them a little gift. So think of what you want to ask, and we'll do that at the end of the session today. So what I'll do now is I'll introduce our friends at DefiSafety. So we have two Nicks on the line and one Lucas. Is that right, guys? Are you guys all there?
I am the Lucas, and the other two Nicks go for it.
I am half of the Nicks.
So we have two Nicks and one Lucas, and I think Nick with a K will be the one presenting, will be doing most of the talking tonight. So why don't I just pass it over to you, Nick, and let me give you rights here so you can share your screen if you'd like to. And the reason why we're here tonight is because we have a lot of new folks to DeFi here, and we've done a few meetings tonight already in the past couple months around DeFi and some of the projects and some of the protocols. But based upon the level of skill that I've been seeing, and some of the questions that have been coming out and some of the concerns, I thought it'd be great to involve a local team here that's actually local in Montreal. That they're one of their missions is to basically try to make DeFi safer. So I'm going to get them to talk about what they do. But I thought there's no better team to talk about this stuff and how to prevent yourself from getting rug pulled or hacked and or how to basically just DeFi safely. So let me pass it over to Nick now, and I'm going to give you the rights, Nick, and then I'll let you take it away.
So my name is Nick, or River on Telegram if you ever want to message me. I work for DefiSafety. I'm an analyst, and tonight I'm going to be talking about a couple of things, but essentially I'm going to be shilling my bags, like explaining what DefiSafety is for a bit, and then I'm going to tell you how you can use that as you go around navigating DeFi. So this will be like a two-part thing, and I want everyone to come out of this feeling more kind of equipped than they entered it. So let's get going. And if you have any questions, just interrupt me. Or if you feel like saving them to the end, that's fine too. But this is a conversation. It's late on a Thursday. It's a miserable day. Let's make this interactive if you want. All right.
Okay, first question. What's your accent? Where are you from? That's a great accent.
Thanks. All over the place, man. I grew up in London, but came here, and a lot of people think I'm from Australia as well. But all over the place.
I wouldn't have guessed London. That's cool.
Yeah, I was going to guess Australia, so that's if we're taking money out, I would have lost.
Indeed. All right. So what we do is essentially take kind of 28 different questions and apply them to a DeFi protocol like Aave or Bank or Balancer, and then we generate a score amongst other things, so that you can kind of easily compare one protocol to another. And then we also kind of review chains themselves, like smart contract blockchains, so like Polygon or BSC, sorry, the Binance Smart Chain or whatever it's called these days. I think it's the BNB chain. And then we also do like Ethereum, Mainnet, Solana, whatever it is. And we really emphasize the importance of being able to explain how we reach a conclusion. So there's always some sort of explanation behind the answer that we get so that you can kind of reach that conclusion yourself. We just do the work for you so you don't have to. We pride ourselves on 3 things in particular. 1, we got to stay super independent, otherwise kind of analyses are meaningless, because you can just pay for a better score and then the whole premise is just like thrown down the drain. Another part of this, which is really important for the independence, is we got to keep all of our stuff incredibly objective so that we keep our incentives aligned with you guys who are the users of the DeFi protocols and not the DeFi protocols themselves. Like, that's who we serve. We're your slaves. Like, we're not anyone else's employee. And finally, like I said earlier, we got to always show our work. This is super, super critical, so that if anyone doesn't understand why we got to a conclusion or wants to disagree with it, we can kind of stand up and say, no, this is how we reached this conclusion. If you think it's wrong, let's discuss it or whatever. And then we'll leave it up to you, the user, to figure out of those 2 points of view which one is like more correct. And so far, we've been pretty good at making sure that our like name is like really, really tarnished, and we haven't gotten into any massive kind of disputes as of yet. Although it's like a contentious thing what we do, so there's always people disagreeing with us. But we really pride ourselves on transparency, and we really, really prioritize the importance of keeping our reputation, because in Web3, like, reputation is everything. You have to be. There's so much money flying around, it's kind of irrelevant at this point. The thing that people really care about is reputation, and you got to protect it. And so all of these 3 pillars keep us together. So yeah, just for those of you, well, everyone's roughly familiar with DeFi, but we're going to talk briefly about why you should use it, or like some advantages of it. So look at Coinbase, that's a centralized exchange, and then Uniswap, it's a decentralized exchange. The trading volumes that they do are essentially maybe like 66%. Uniswap is 66% of Coinbase, for example, but the number of employees is substantially less than 66%. There's one form of efficiency. 2, yeah, DeFi, you can't turn it off. If I want to go trade something like drunk and in a panicked state after reading some CoinDesk article at 4 a.m. in the morning, that's up to me. No one's going to say I'm an investor that needs protection, and this is outside regular trading hours. This is super important. And everything is immutable. It's great. It's much more easy to fork stuff. You go into the traditional kind of intellectual property world, and you try and steal something, or not even steal something, you just try and copy it, and someone will like file a lawsuit against you. Whereas if you go and ask a coder, can I like take inspiration from this software function that you've created, and they'll be like, I didn't create it, I discovered it, do what you want with it, whatever. There's like a fundamental difference in mindsets between like what comes before and what is now. And then last but not least, when DeFi is done right, it is much safer than TradFi is, because you can independently verify something. As long as you kind of stick to the best practices and avoid some of the more like out there ideas, you should be pretty fine. If anything, you're more fine than like the traditional financial system. I've heard countless stories of people being locked out of their accounts for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Like, that's not safe. If you can't access your own money, like, the system has failed, right? Anyway, so going back to what we get up to, these process quality reviews are our bread and butter. And we look at these 6 different things, which lead to 28 different questions. So we look at the kind of how transparent the team is, how well they explain their own code, what testing measures they do, have they implemented audits or bug bounties on their code, have they kind of explained who controls the contracts that you're interacting with, and then finally, where the contracts get the data that they go and make decisions with, or whatever. So when you're looking at a process quality review, we break everything down so it's super easy to kind of understand what it is. Each one of those little subsections I just described to you is written in just a straight percentage format so that anyone can kind of immediately compare. Say you want to compare pangolin to compound, you could just click on compound and then you'd know exactly what's up. So yeah, it's all very surface level, but if you want to go deeper, you can, and you always find these justifications. This is all, you can just all find this on our website, DefiSafety.com/PQRS. Yeah, so the smart contract addresses, this is the most important question that we find, and we give them an answer, which is 100% in this case, because you can easily find them at this link. And every question that we do, all 28 of them, is like independently verifiable. And yeah, I've spent a very long time cross-referencing like every process quality review that we've done, which is like 225 with kind of all of the hacks in decentralized finance. And so far, only Cream Finance has been hacked Cream Finance is the only protocol that's been hacked with a higher than 80% total score or whatever. So of the remaining 224, if only one of them has been hacked while somehow sneaking past our process quality review, like cutoff point of 80, it's a pretty good track record. Like, this stuff works.
Question for you, Nick. What was the criteria for the 224 that you've
Oh, if you want us to
investigated?
review a protocol, we can go do it. It doesn't matter. Everything's free. You just give us a request. We usually take 2 or 3 weeks to kind of A, write the report, and then B, like discuss it with the developers to make sure that they kind of haven't A, made any mistakes, and B, provide them a chance to change any questions that they want to. It's a really long process. Like, the writing of the report takes like a good bit of time, but the really, really time consuming part, probably like 60% of my time, is just like discussing things with other developers and like trying to get them to like change documentation so that things are clearer for their users or whatever. Like, there's no like rhyme or reason to like requesting a protocol, and then we go and put it through our own processes of like, does the token have a transaction volume of less than like $20,000 per day, or is the TVL less than $1 million? We try to like gatekeep like all of the like really low level stuff, but if you can meet those two criteria, we'll probably take a look at it. And yeah, after this, I will write whatever request down and we'll get it done for you. No problem. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute there. Yeah, no, that's
Great,
cool.
great.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
No worries. So yeah, I can't see anyone's face, so I have no idea. Another thing that we're doing is we're ranking specific contracts as well, so that you can see individual scores on individual smart contracts. So say you want to enter a curve pool or whatever, you can see that the curve 3 pool, UST, USDC, and DAI, has held value for an incredibly long time. It's been audited and it's never like suffered a hack, so it gets like 100% score, for example. But something like a Badger pool, which has suffered a front end attack or whatever, like might get docked for it. Or Yan has been hacked once, but the hack was fairly inconsequential. However, Inverse has been hacked pretty significantly and has not held value for a significant period of time. Therefore, their score on their contract is quite low or whatever. So not only do we rank the protocols in this way, we rank the individual contracts that you might interact with or whatever, and it's like constantly updated. It's big brain stuff. You'll like it. So go to our website and sign up for it if you want. Yeah, this is just kind of a breakdown of how it looks. So you have the age, the PQR score, like the maturity score, which is how long it's held value, like times by a specific coefficient, and then what we gave it for the audit score in the process quality review earlier. So yeah, this is just a bond bridge pool, which unsurprisingly, bond bridge has been around forever. I don't think it's been hacked. Yeah, no hacks to date, so it gets a good contract score. All right, so as a trader, how can you use this, for example? So say you want to go and ape into the next like Pancake Swap pool that just got upgraded to the V2 contract because you want to go get some of that sweet juicy yield, whatever. You can go and look at, like, go back to the process quality reviews look up Pancake Swap. They got an 82%. They're doing quite well. And then you go look at the exact contract that you're supposed to migrate it into, and you can get a score. Based off of that, you can kind of act, will my position in Pancake Swap or whatever be kind of exposed to unnecessary risk? Well, yes, every contract is unnecessary risk. However, have I done my due diligence and have I done the research required to make this risk as minimal as possible? Also, yes. So you can feel like relatively comfortable that you're actually going to kind of have your position respected as you migrate the kind of liquidity onto the new thing or whatever. So that's one way you can use it. All right, so moving into some more specific, like what you can do rather than just like relying on our website. Because as much as we like to do a lot of this work, there are so many protocols out there. There are so many contracts. There are so many different things that we just can't reach to. It's an infinite amount. So I'm just going to summarize an article that I wrote for the Defiant, which is a great kind of DeFi specific journal or news website that you all should be reading. It's really, really good stuff. Like the person who kind of created the Defiant also wrote The Infinite Machine, which, by the way, today was announced that Ridley Scott is going to produce the film for The Infinite Machine. So you guys should really keep your eye on this site. It's
Nice.
some fantastic like journalism in DeFi. I think it is the best DeFi journalism there is. So yeah. All right. So I'm gonna try and keep this super like accessible at the same time as like provide enough detail that you can kind of go and do this and feel like some sort of like you can draw some sort of conclusion out from it afterwards. But basically, the first thing you should do when you go to a DeFi protocol is Google the name of it and then Google GitHub afterwards. GitHub is where people kind of upload all their files or all their code or whatever it is to so that other people can confirm it. And then what I want you to do is look down at the repositories, which is just like a tab on GitHub itself. And then I want you to look for the wiggly lines. You see these green wiggly lines? So on the left, we have a very happy and healthy wiggly line with a good pulse. But on the right, this is Tomb Finance on Phantom. There was some activity, but now it's flatlined. It's dead. This is not good transparency. Because Tomb is still pushing updates, like perpetually, since it's still being active. I think they're making their own chain these days. Like they've gone past Phantom at this point, but they aren't showing their work anymore at all. Whereas Bancor on the left, like gave us an update 6 minutes ago about their different kind of updates. So all these wiggly lines are really important. Everyone should be having good wiggly lines. So to find this, GitHub, the name of the protocol, and then just look at the wiggly lines. You want more wiggly lines. Less wiggly lines means the protocol is either dead or not very transparent. So be careful. If you don't see any wiggly lines, think carefully. All right. The second thing you should look for is the docs. Sure, they look nice, but do they ever mean anything? Like before I used to have this job, I'd like try and browse the docs, but they just didn't make any sense whatsoever. That's because I was looking at primarily like bottom tier protocols. Any protocol that wants to take itself seriously will spend a lot of time kind of making really, really carefully written out language so that people can actually understand it. And they're sometimes like Pancake Swap, to go back to them, is a fantastic example of a good protocol that like spends a lot of time explaining how it works, because Pancake Swap is the first port of call for a lot of people using like DeFi, right? You create your Binance account, you spend some time trading, it's fun or whatever, but then you kind of get told about these crazy yield opportunities. So if you go, you withdraw some BNB and then go get destroyed by a permanent loss. Or maybe that was just me. The second thing that you should look for in the documentation, aside from like it being all very straightforward-ish to understand and kind of written in a way that you can follow, is that you should need to find the contracts that you're going to be interacting with. So like a smart contract is that little thing when you click on MetaMask and you select sign something or like allow spend limit of, like what's going on under the hood there is the MetaMask is authorizing you to interact with these things, like these strings of 0x letters, whatever it is. And so you want to make sure that you can then click on these links, and then it should take you to a website called Etherscan. And then on that Etherscan page, you should be able to look at how often the transaction is being interacted with or whatever. And sometimes the transaction is labeled. The address is labeled. So make sure that the label of the address kind of corroborates whichever protocol you're using. So that's the documentation. So this is the biggest question in DeFi, right? When is the audit? Generally speaking, you probably shouldn't interact with unaudited code unless you're really sure about what you're doing. And also, when you're looking at an audit, like it's good to see that something has been audited, but what's really, really good is to be able to tell how many pages the audit is. Generally speaking, it's not an iron rule, but the longer the audit is, the PDF that you click on, say it's got 30 pages, it's going to be a lot better than a 4-page audit because it means that they've spent a lot more time like explaining what testing methodologies they've done, which means that other people can kind of verify this themselves, which means that the code is going to be a lot stronger. A 2-page audit that just says this protocol was audited is kind of useless and means that the auditor hasn't really done their due diligence. So just look for a long audit. That's all you really need to think about here. More pages than 30 is the gold standard. All right, so next we have bug bounties. What these are is the developer of like MakerDAO who create DAI or Olympus who create Ohm. They offer up to $3,333,333 to anyone who can find a problem in their code. And then instead of them just breaking the protocol and stealing everyone's money, they can earn this entire sum. And this is a serious amount of money. Say you're just like idly looking at some code, and then you get $3.3 million. You're going to be like, this is life-changing amount of money. So this is a serious incentive. The bigger the bug bounty, the better. Obviously, not everyone can afford this amount of money, but like it's a super important thing to have because it means that people who want to, it's like a safety release valve or whatever. There's like a way to break the cycle where the only thing you can do is like exploit the protocol. So you talk to the protocol, and then the protocol will give you some money for not breaking the protocol, and then everyone's a little happier, right? And where these are all listed is on immunify.com. So this is just a screenshot of immunify.com. But yeah, you have people who are literally spending their entire life doing nothing but just looking at this website and then trying to find bugs in people's code. Because this really is a lot of money. All right, last but not least, I want to talk about 2 specific things. Like one targeted piece of criticism that I have is anything that tells you that like we defend our right to become wealthy or this is a coin for the masses. Generally speaking, you can't trust it. Any like populist coin or whatever, like I don't know, abracadabra for example, look how that turned out. Well, look at this particular thing. This is like some stupid coin on the Binance Smart Chain that was going with the populism. And look, it's 94.6%, 96.4% down from 88, all-time high. Like anyone that tells you that we're all gonna band together and beat the whales, it's not gonna happen. So stay the hell away from those. And then secondly, whenever you like ask a question, so say you've done this and you find some sort of discrepancy between the smart contract and what's listed in the documentation, and then you go to the community manager of the protocol that you're trying to interact with, and they just tell you to go F yourself or whatever it is, or like stop fudding, then that's a sign that you should probably avoid using it, because if something was to go wrong, they're not going to listen to you, and they don't care about you as a user of their protocol. Like, they need you just as much as you need them. For example, if you're trying to supply liquidity to a DEX, you are the lifeblood of their protocol. If you aren't there, then they're useless. This is why they give you these tokens or whatever. So you got to make sure that they treat you well as a customer. And you should kind of think about that as they're like selling you something. They're selling you their token in exchange for you providing them that they're giving you their token in exchange for you providing them liquidity, which keeps their exchange alive. So yeah, those are my 5 tips for you. So just briefly look into the future. We're just about to launch these chain scores and these contract change. So the contract scores are live, but we're going to start implementing a program that will allow you to get an alert whenever the contract is updated. So say you don't trust the developer 100%, but you still want to provide them with your liquidity or tokens or whatever it is. Whenever the contract changes, we'll have an immediate alert. We're going to keep improving process quality reviews and just generally just get it better as a company and grow and hire and all this stuff. So yeah, we are still super early, and DeFi is not a safe place. Never forget that, but go have fun at the same time too. All right, that's all I have for you. Stay DeFi. And if you ever want to just physically show up to our office, please do. We'd love to talk to you. We're in the sun. Just look us up. All right.
Cool.
Let's have some questions if you have any.
Nick, how are you funded? Who pays you?
Okay, cool. Thank you, man.
Nick, my question while people are getting back in is who funds you and how are you paid? How do you make a living?
It's a leading question indeed. We raised $1 million in a seed round in August of last year. I only joined in September. And now we just got our first round of revenue. So what we do is we sell this information to institutions looking to kind of ape into farms or whatever, as well as like the chain scores and the specific contract scores or whatever. They're free right now, but we got to start charging. Otherwise, the lights are going to go off and we need to start making some revenue. So that's
Okay.
it.
Good.
Congrats
Thank
on
you.
the funding round.
Hmm?
I said congrats on the funding, on the seed funding.
Yeah. We're running out now. We're going to do our Series A in like June. So pouring more gas on the fire.
Is anybody
How big is the
developing?
team now at DeFi? Sorry, go ahead, Raja.
No, I was asking if you have who's on your team, who's develop. Well, I don't know about your project. Who's developing and
Well, yeah, it's not really a developing thing. We're analysts. We don't make stuff. We just look
Oh.
at stuff. Like it was created by Rex Highgate, who spent like 30 years in the airplane software industry, kind of making sure that planes didn't fall out the sky. And so we apply the same logic to airplane software to kind of DeFi. And there's a lot of similarities and a lot of like inference you can take. But at the same time, there's still a lot of localization you have to do.
Okay.
And like software has changed a lot and will continue to change a lot. And so we need to change a lot in order to stay relevant. Yeah.
How long have you been in the DeFi space yourself?
Me, I was kind of hanging around in like late 2020.
Okay.
And then I started like dumping money into it in like February. And then lost all that I cared for. And then now I just stick with stable coins mostly. But you can still get some pretty nice stuff with stable coins. It's certainly a lot better than my bank.
Yeah, 100%.
Anchor Protocol, Houston. Thanks again.
Yeah. I like stablecoin farming. Yeah, can't go wrong.
Yeah, be careful of that one.
Yes,
Which one?
that's one. That's the one I definitely wanted to talk about. What's your opinions about Anchor and the whole UST Luna
So
relationship?
it's complicated, man. It really is.
Yes.
From my understanding of it, it's like a vacuum that needs more liquidity in perpetually. And if it ever kind of it like the way I see Luna right now is it's in a drain kind of circling, or like it's around a black hole, and the the circle is like nice and big right now. But if Luna's market cap is ever to shrink, or like people just stop bridging onto Terra, then it might not be able to escape this kind of black hole and it'll fall through. However, this BTC buy that Do Kwon, I mean, I spend my entire time thinking about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Terra terrifies me. But what's even worse than that? Have you guys heard about what Justin Sun is going to launch?
No, is he gonna do his own version?
Yeah, not only is he
Because I
going to
know
do his
Near
own
Protocol is
version.
already doing one that's similar. Is Justin coming out with his own now on EOS?
No, it's on Tron. He's going to offer 30%.
Really?
Because 20 is not enough. That's funny.
Yeah.
Nick, I don't think I'm that deep into the space. So Justin, who is that? Which coin? Can you just fill us in?
Tron. Justin Sun. He made Tron. There's this fantastic article called The Many Escapes of Justin Tron that I want you to read.
Yeah, really, really good read. Yeah, fantastic
It's
read.
it's maybe like the best piece of like
So Justin's,
crypto.
he's infamous for having made a lot of money early, and of course,
Yeah.
buying the lunch with Warren Buffett, and he's one of the guys who tends to be one of the big bidders when it comes to NFTs and the vanity projects nowadays. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, he like essentially straight ripped the the Ethereum white paper and like just forked all the code and then made his own chain with it and a whole bunch of other stuff. And he's
Yeah.
become a really prominent name. And he like bought a position in the Bahamas, so now you have to address him as His Excellency and all sorts of ridiculous stuff like that. But just read that article; it's fantastic
Thanks
and
for
just
sharing.
really well written. Yeah,
Thank you.
my pleasure.
Yes.
Sorry, I
And
keep on
Norris.
asking questions, but I want to, Houston, I know you had a question. You go first and then me.
Well, just going back to the whole Terra Luna and Anchor Protocol question. It seems like you said, like there's definitely some sort of flywheel that has to keep spinning in order for this thing to maintain its, I don't know if the peg is the right word or not, but certainly those two things are closely related.
Sustain itself, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the question is, you see a lot of a lot of projects kind of spinning off and doing similar things, kind of forking the same thing, kind of like we saw with Ohm. So now we're just seeing a bunch of projects basically just forking. I guess each one has a slightly different kind of a model, but it's kind of the same.
You need
Stablecoin.
so much money backing it.
Yeah.
Like the Luna Foundation God, when it goes and buys like a baseball team, or it like does a sponsorship with a baseball team in Washington D.C., you start to wonder
Right.
which is more effective, giving out $38 million to people in liquidity mining incentives, or going and sponsoring a baseball team. The money has to run out at some point, and the amount of money that you need to settle this up is astronomical.
Yeah.
Like Justin Sun is launching his project with a $10 billion reserve.
So what's the red flag for you? Is it more around like, for instance, like I think Anchor has what, like 200 something million left in the reserve. Is it that they're going to run out of reserves and they're going to have to decrease the amount of yield offered to the to the folks who are staked, or is it more that you think it's more systemic and that this thing could fall apart if Luna somehow drops in price and there's some sort of systematic selling of Luna that would cause everything to kind of crash down? Like, what do you think is the the bigger risk there?
It's kind of hard to separate the two. I see them together really. Like
Yeah.
Luna will lose its peg. Sorry, UST will lose its peg as a consequence of like UST no longer being able to redeem for $1 worth of Luna, and then there's aggression to kind of burn more Luna. Sorry, redeem more Luna, and then you get this circle going and going and going. And there's just so much UST flying around, and there's so many liquidity pairs, and people are making perpetuals. There's like derivatives, and then you can go and they have this thing called kinetic money, which is where you can borrow against your anchor protocol position in the same way that you can use like not abracadabra, Alchemex. Self-replaying,
Yeah, synthetic loans. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
then you can go borrow against your own position, then dump that straight back in. It's the leverage that gets me. I was
Yeah.
trying to think about how I could create some sort of process that could ensure the entirety of DeFi itself, so that say every respectable protocol pays 1% of its profit into this one pool, so that anytime there's like some gigantic scam or scheme or smart contract exploit, everyone can just kind of like ensure that protocol, and then it's okay. But there's just way too much leverage and way too many derivatives going around for any of this to kind of make sense. Like
Yeah.
the money isn't even real. The
Are you
image I keep
personally? Sorry, just wondering. Are
no,
you personally invested in UST on the Anchor protocol?
No comment, but one thing you should think
Okay.
about is like with stablecoins, you should tranche your risk. So say you have like a 45%, I don't know, you're happy to use UST in Anchor Protocol, but then keep the other 55 in USDC.
Yeah.
Whatever. USDT, I wouldn't trust as far as I could throw it. And Frax is like still a bit funky. Like I'm a big FXS guy myself, but like just think about how much, like imagine a pie chart and then
Yeah.
create your own risk profile for yourself and then figure out what you want to do with it. If you're
Yeah.
happy to go like as far as you can and earn like that sweet 19.5%, then sure, do it if you think it's a good thing for you. But like certainly be mindful that it could all disappear too.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear
With
you.
USDC, I think the chances of that happening are like essentially nothing. Like
Yeah.
everyone knows what Circle's up to. BlackRock just invested like $400 million into them. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. 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 I thought the UST has even more legitimacy,
Legitimate.
le, even more legitimate now with the Bitcoin backing as well as the Avalanche backing. So and also the pool 4, So that kind of for me, but I'm not an expert, that made it for me just more.
Yeah. Well, anyone who tells you an expert probably doesn't know the full extent of it, or they're in on it and they're trying to confuse you. This stuff is
Yeah.
so complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, the full pool is a cool thing, definitely. Like this is why I like Frax so much, because they've won the curve emission war, so that the only way to kind of swap a stable coin is through them now, which means that liquidity for something like DAI will just dry up.
Yeah.
But it's just because you kind of dig something deeper into a trench and make it stronger doesn't mean that that initial threat, that like black hole. So say we go back to this image of UST circling a black hole, and it's like ever getting closer. These Bitcoin buys, these avalanche swaps, this four pool, sure, it might give them like more time, but I don't think it gives them escape velocity. They're still circling, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like out of all the decentralized stablecoins, you're the biggest fan of Frax.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it about Frax that you find that that assures you?
I've spent a long time talking with like Sam Kazemian, the guy who created it. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
reviewed his project a bunch. He's a really intelligent builder.
yeah.
They have the biggest bug bounty in DeFi at like $12 million.
Wow.
They take
Sorry,
security
one
really
sorry,
seriously.
I don't. Sorry, 1 second. Hey, Raja. Sorry, you're the host. So are there are there any people trying to come in? Because since you're the host, you actually have to admit them in manually.
He was trying to come in,
Yeah.
but I couldn't. I was hitting admit, but it wasn't
Okay.
taken.
There you
I
are.
know what it is.
We're back.
Yeah.
There was
No,
a
we've
quick,
been going for a while now. Unfortunately, I think we're missing half the crew. So
Yeah,
sorry.
a couple of us were exchanging questions on the Montreal DAO. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
just
that's very cool. Very
just
excellent, Nick. Thank you. Appreciate it.
My apologies
there's
for
a great
breaking it.
podcast with Sam Kazimian. I think that's the name of the
Yeah,
founder of Frax,
exactly.
right? There's a great podcast just a few weeks ago on I think it was on Bankless. I can just encourage everyone to listen to it. Yeah, it was very, very insightful. And he seemed to be bullish on UST, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah, he is. Everyone has their own risk tolerance. He's one of the few people who like go out of his way to defend UST, and he raises some valid points. But you have to localize. Like you have to synthesize everyone else's thoughts and make your own thought out of it. You know,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
got to wade
Absolutely.
through the bullshit.
Yeah.
That's how it
Hey,
is.
Nick, I just want to circle back to your great presentation. Thank you so much again for that. You shared 5 points with us. Just from my understanding, how important is it from your perspective to also look at the core team behind the DeFi project?
Pretty. So, yeah, I brushed over that too quickly when I was talking about like the developer relationship. Not only should you look at the core team, figure out whether or not they're anonymous, because anonymous developers can disappear a lot easier than public ones. However, like some anonymous developers have made the most valuable contributions to this space. And so you got to balance that. And at the same time, you should think about what VCs have backed the project. Because say if you see something like 3 Arrows Capital or like Do Kwon himself or like Sam Kazemian or like Defiance Capital, any of these big VC names, like they aren't going to rug pull. And if you can kind of align your incentives with the big players, you're probably going to do okay. But always be mindful that at any moment they're going to dump their early token allocations on you too. So
So we become the exit liquidity for the VCs, basically.
yeah. Like there's technical risk, which is what we focus in, and there's financial risk, which I can't really comment on because it's just so complicated.
Well,
I mean,
that's
I
great. It's great that you're transparent about that because that's important. I think there's so many expectations of someone's out to get my money, you know. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. And maybe another question, Nick. How do you become aware of DeFi projects? I mean, what are you on Twitter or you mentioned the Defined website. I mean, how do you become aware of it? Just out of curiosity.
I was
only if you're allowed to share, of course.
I was into trading for a while, and for me, I was really obsessed in like not only like increasing the value of, say I had one BNB. So it was nice when BNB, like I was trading it when it's like $25. It was nice when it would go from like 25 to 32. But what was even nicer was when it went from 25 to 32 and it also went from 1 BNB to 1.1 BNB. You know? I was obsessed with increasing my yield. Like capital efficiency is what I am mad about. Like even to this day. And you don't put your coins to work at all when you're trading them, unless you like start using leverage. But all the experimenting I did with that like went wrong. As I'm sure at least one of you.
How do you keep a pulse on the latest? Sorry, I was talking
Yeah,
over Tony.
exactly.
But I
So
think
that's
Marshall's
my
question
take.
was more around how do you keep on on the pulse of DeFi? So how are
Oh,
you finding the latest projects and like what's the yeah, how are you hearing about the the latest drops and that kind of stuff? Like, is there something that you do, or is there a process that you follow to make sure that you're keeping an ear on the latest things?
so yeah. Look at there's your one-stop shop for DeFi kind of like news is the guy called @root2fi on Twitter. He's not there for
Yeah, he's good.
everything, but
Yeah,
he's like there for like 90% of it. He's a
yeah,
fantastic resource to have. Yeah, you know him, Houston.
yeah.
Exactly.
Would
At
you mind sharing it in the chat?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much, Nick.
He's crazy active. His calls are generally okay, although sometimes they can be a bit funky. Like I once saw him back when Phantom was a really big thing. He was like suggesting that people like borrow and then like buy Phantom, then stake it in Tomb, then like use the T-shirt. It was just like this obscene loop that like made me feel physically ill looking at it, just thinking about how quickly I could get liquidated.
Yeah, he's a real
So
degen. He
yeah,
really goes nuts. He's like, yeah, always about you have leveraging multiple protocols and creating that leverage. So yeah, he's always early to these things, and then adding like gasoline on top of it.
mm.
uh, so what are your thoughts
um,
around what are your thoughts around just because I know you have to jump soon, but I just want to get your comments on a couple of things. Like, number one, do you find there's a particular chain that's the most scammy? And then number two, just your comments on bridges, given what that we've seen so many exploits of bridges, and the exploits are different across all the bridges, but it seems like that is the place where the most amount of money can be lost right now. So yeah, just those two questions.
um, I wouldn't go so far as to say that there's like a predominantly scammy chain, but I would say there's like a chain that can indicate seriousness of like intention to stay around for the long haul, and it all boils down to gas fees.
Right.
Sadly, anything that deploys on mainnet that's willing to spend like $2,000 just to modify one transaction or one contract or whatever it is, you generally get a pretty good idea that it's going to stick around. But even I myself don't use mainnet simply because I'm not playing with enough money to justify the gas costs.
Yeah.
Try to look for protocols that have a deployment on mainnet, but then forked onto something like Avalanche or like Polygon or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's quite difficult to be taken seriously, specifically on the BSC, if you deploy exclusively on the BSC. Not to say it's impossible, but it looked to, I don't know. I see a lot of really, really low quality protocols out there,
Yeah.
and generally speaking, got to be careful with my words because I don't want to like slag off one chain, say, "Oh, you're fucking shit" or whatever it is. But yeah, look for gas fees basically. Something that can afford to pay L1 gas fees is going to stick around for sure. And sure, they can bridge over to a different chain where things are cheaper. But for me, there's no stronger sign of sticking around than A, like a public team, and then B, a like a deployment on mainnet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the second question?
Just your thoughts around bridges, right? And
Oh
the
yeah,
hacks we've
yeah.
been seeing around bridges, and it seems to me that the bridging and the Stargate and all these new it seems like that layer of zero kind of interoperability and messaging between protocols or between chains seems to be the hot thing now, right? So, but also seems to be the riskiest part of crypto. So, just your thoughts around that, and if you guys have any plans on covering some of those things.
Yeah, so like today we did Hop Exchange,
Okay.
which is like it does, I think, Optimism, Mainnet, Polygon, and Gnosis chain or whatever it is. So we look at those, but the process doesn't really fit them perfectly because they don't really use oracles, all these other different technical details. So we definitely want to take some time to look at like this all in more detail, but right now we just don't have the kind of time to do it. There's only like 10 of us, of which 6 are like actually in Montreal. One of them is like perpetually looking at smart contract details. Like there's one guy who has to sort out the organization of the whole thing. We're looking to get a new office space, all this stuff. Like we're pretty time constrained. But as we start hiring and as we do this raise, things will start accelerating. We'll be able to cover more things. I think generally though, like the layer 0 team is really, really good. We reviewed Stargate and they got like a 68 without them even responding to our requests or like comment. So they know what they're doing for sure. Will they like mess something up in the future? Probably. Or will another bridge?
Well, yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yes.
You guys.
They're going to come back stronger and stronger and stronger. It's only a matter of time until we sort all this out. Like this is a detail. Like 5 years ago, if you could imagine that this would be like the hot topic as opposed to just like the whole ecosystem. Like the ecosystem is so legitimized that like we care so much about one specific detail. It's immaterial. You got to zoom out and remember. Sorry, afterward. Sorry, Tony, I interrupted you there.
No, that's okay. I actually probably did that to you first, so my bad. No, I mean it's tough because you guys aren't actually auditing code either, right? Like
no, exactly.
And your website's amazing. I got on there already, and you list a whole whack of auditors, like official auditors that get out there and audit code, which is a great sign of again another good sign of a team if they've done a good proper audit and everything. But even then, it's tough. I mean, the wormhole. There was one wormhole hack. It was like 600 million. And from what I gathered, the hacker basically saw that there was a refresh to GitHub on an element and realized that that element's in a wormhole. Before they fix it, I can get in there and change an account setting and double spend. I mean, it's a tough world to get secure.
Yeah, it really is.
But again, your website is excellent.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Do you think that's the like in terms of risks? Like, do you have any ideas in terms of ideas? But what's do you have any thoughts around? Do you think DeFi is going to get riskier because of these bridging projects, or do you think that it's in
the short term maybe, in the long term no.
Yeah.
They will solve this. I'm sure of it. I have complete confidence in the abilities of builders. There's a lot of money on the line, and there's a gigantic financial incentive to like look after it. It's only a matter of time until they figure it out.
Well, here's some job security for you, though, Nick, because don't write yourselves off too quickly. There's going to be a need for your team for quite some time because
absolutely.
The other it's not just bridging, but if you look at the main protocols, what I'm seeing is that a lot of them are running into capacity. The gas fees are so high because the capacities are what they are, and so a lot of protocols are looking at sharding, which is another or zero knowledge rollups or optimal rollups, and that's more complexity to the contracts. Which
I have no worries about my future. Don't worry, I appreciate the consideration, but there's so many idiotic like coders out there, and there's so many people who like just want to produce them, like click their fingers and make a $1 million overnight. Like there's always going to be a need for people like us. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Now I know, Nick, you got to jump at 7:30, so I think we've hit your mark now. So be respectful of your time.
Yeah.
Guys, any final things? Otherwise, we'll thank Nick and again thank you, Nick, for taking for dealing with these technical hiccups, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your wisdom and
my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I look forward to seeing you at the next Web3 event.
Exactly. Hope we can see you guys in person.
Yeah.
Very insightful. Thanks a
Have a good
lot.
night.
Thank you,
Bye.
Nick.
Thank
I'll
you,
reach
Nick.
out
Thank you.
for
Take
sure.
care.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
So we'll keep going here. So we got Nick who has to dial up, but we have a few more things on our agenda. But we're really down to a small group now because of the technical hiccups. We started off with a bigger group, but I don't know, Raj. Is anyone else coming in? Did you have any other requests coming in, or
No, that's
I
it.
think people dropped off? Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, too many technical hiccups, and unfortunately, I don't think we can really recommend this platform for our future events because it's just a little bit too buggy at this time, which is unfortunate because it's a good idea. So there's only four of us left here, including myself plus myself. So maybe what I'll do quickly, I'll just share with you we can open it up, and I'll share my screen here. Let's see what happens. If I share my screen and we crash, then it was nice talking to you guys tonight. We'll talk to you next time. Just a warning. But if it does work, then I'll just share a few things and what I'm going to talk about next is just some quick market stats, and then we can wrap things up because I think we've already had enough technical difficulties for one night. So here we go. Click on share. Let's see what happens. All right, I didn't get kicked out yet.
It worked. No, good.
All right, so I think it was Nick the whole time. That's crashing us. Keep my fingers crossed. It's his bomb-proof laptop or whatever that he's using to crash huddle. Okay, so looks like it's still working.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to quickly cover up a few things here, and then we'll wrap things up. And this is more for the recording.
Sea of red.
Yeah, sea of red. So what I'm going to talk about now is just quickly a kind of a review of the markets and the DeFi landscape, and we can open it up at the end. So it's pretty red still. So we're clearly still in a bear market. Nothing's changed today. We had a nice little reversal, indicating that this little rally that we had both in equities and cryptos was kind of short lived because we're giving back a lot of those gains. So people are still fading pops, and that means it's a typical bear market action. And there is no kind of safe places. The only places that are green actually has interesting stories around them. But on this side here, on the left-hand side, we have kind of cryptocurrencies, blockchain. These are kind of blockchain smart contract. Actually, I'm going to click on my little laser button here. So here's a little red. So on the left-hand side here, we have blockchains, so L1s, L2s, and so forth. And then in the bottom middle here, you have cryptocurrencies, and then stablecoins in the middle. So I'll just draw your attention to the left-hand side for a second. There's really there's a few projects that popped up over the past month. So this is a year to date. So the past quarter done well that are still green. Luna, of course, we talked about that length already today. Near Protocol, we talked about that is ready already. Near is actually launching a stablecoin as well, right? So the idea is they're kind of forking. They are kind of forking UST and making their own version of that stablecoin. And I'm not sure why ETC has popped. That's an interesting one. Waves also had its own stablecoin, very small here. It actually had popped significantly earlier in the month, but has sold off since because it is it appears they're a Russian project, and they definitely got the wind taken out of them after the Ukraine war started. So there was a lot of selling, and it's possible that they were being used as exit strategy for rich Russians. But anyway, so that's interesting. An interesting kind of take of the land here. Really, nothing in the green. For the most part, it's red, except for a few small green glitches here and there. Interestingly, in terms of currencies, there's definitely been a play here. You'll see this XMR and ZEC. The move back to private or privacy-based coins is continuing. So today we had Monero was up. What was it today? It's up 5% today in a day where Bitcoin's down 3%. So Monero and Zcash holding strong. So whatever the narrative is, people are still going into privacy coins, and I think that's related to the war, and probably related to the fact that things like the ongoing issues with people being censored and deplatformed and debanked. So Next slide just gives a little more detail on some of the returns. And I'm just going to highlight a couple of projects I think are interesting. So this is a Q1. So this is the past quarter. This came out this past week, or a few weeks ago. CoinGecko released their Q1 2022 update report. Definitely recommend that. I just took some of these screenshots out of that report. I thought I'd share with the group because it's a pretty good report if you want to understand the sort of the strong narratives and some of the strong projects. So I think what's interesting to see is a couple of things. Number one is that the top 5 currencies, they're pretty much all in the red. There's a very, they've seen significant selling in Q1. Bitcoin up slightly, but for the year it's down 10% like we saw already. But here, as you can see, I'll point at this, right? So Luna in Q1 up 24%, right? So Luna doing as of at the beginning of April. So that's now come in a bit, but as of the beginning of April, it was up 24%. Ruin as well. So Ruin and Luna were the 2 big DeFi tokens that really popped off in Q1. Now, most exchange tokens have been going down, with the exception of FTX. So FTX still hanging in there, doing all right. And the Leo token, that's basically a token issued by Bitfinex to allow some of their customers to redeem in case they were able to claw back some of the losses from a hack. Now, those people got busted. If you recall, in Q1, so 2 people got busted for that Bitfinex hack, and they're trying to recover those coins. And this is why that particular coin has popped up so much. But the play to earn stuff, this is the interesting space in crypto, is that play to earn model, and they've all been hit, right? So there isn't one single metaverse kind of play to earn token that's done well, except for this latest one, GMT, which is not just play to earn, it's actually play to move. So the whole play to earn space now, I think people are seeing that it is, the narrative right now is that it's kind of a failed experiment, right? So Axie was unable to hold on to their gains, or they've come back a lot. Excuse me, because what people have realized now, and they realize we've always known the games themselves are terrible, right? So playing Axie is not fun at all. But the fact is that you could have made money, and if you were early enough to the game, you could have made money if you lived in an economy that had a low minimum wage. You may have been able to make enough money playing that game versus actually having to work in real life. But since that time, the Axie coin has not held its value, and now people are just they're dumping those coins, and now it's no longer possible to earn a living playing Axie. And that's the same thing with most of these play to earn games. They're not fun. It's basically work. And right now, crypto doesn't have a kind of tier 1 game that's actually fun to play and you can make some money. But this one is interesting, right? GMT, that one there, if you Google that one, it's for an app called Steppen, basically an iPhone, Android app where you can actually exercise and then earn money exercising. That will sell off at some point shortly because I think people are gonna sell that because it's up significantly. Next slide. So as we're still in a bear market, we talked about this in Q1 that we were in a bear market. The place to be has been stable coins. So there's a reason why Nick is like stable coins. I think most people in DeFi are of that approach now as well, where it's not time right now to go off on the high on the risk curve and take obscene risk because we're in a bear market. So what's the best thing to do? Well, hold on to your stables. And unlike in the traditional TradFi space where if the stock market's selling off, you're going to want to hold cash. If you're not a trader, you're going to want to hold cash, right? So you're going to hold cash and then put it in your bank account and maybe earn sub 1% interest. But in DeFi, you can take your crypto holdings, convert them to stable coins, and then earn anywhere between 10 to 20% on those stable coins. And I think Nick was saying that the Justin Sun's Tron project is gonna give you 30%, which is actually pretty good. Like I'm gonna definitely farm on some of that if I can get 30% on stable coins. Why not, right? Like it's if he's got $10 billion worth of reserves, then take advantage of it. Don't put your whole portfolio in there, but why not take 10% of your portfolio and try to and earn some yield. But the stable coins are probably right now, especially in a bear market, the most compelling space in DeFi, and it has the broadest use case out of all the. I think it has the best product market fit out of all the cryptos because people actually need stable coins. It doesn't matter where you live in the world; people want to transact in US dollars, and that's what the stable coins give you without having to deal with the volatility of holding a cryptocurrency like a Bitcoin or ETH or any other coin. Right here, you're pegged to the US dollar, pegged if they can hold the peg, and you can and potentially earn interest. So the biggest five right now at the bottom, Tether. I have less. Personally, I'm more comfortable with Tether than Nick is. There's USDC, there's Binance USD, that's US Terra or UST, so that's Terra, and that's DAI, so Maker's DAI. So DAI is going down. It has not been growing as quickly as these other ones. So you can see Terra, clearly the big dog. It's not big dog yet, but catching up quickly to Binance USD, and already at $16+ billion in market cap. So yeah, that's the big. That is the big grower, the big gainer out of all of them is Terra. Talked about Terra already, but here there's 3 stable coins that are decentralized, right? So all the other ones that are the other 5 here, out of these 5, only 2 of them are decentralized, right? Terra and DAI, BUSD, USDC, and Tether, all centralized coins. The only 3 that are decentralized: UST, Terra, Frax, and DAI, right? You can clearly see Terra has broken out and has the greatest amount of market cap here. People seem to be enamored with that project right now, and it has a lot of a positive flywheel effects. We talked about that already.
Houston, can I just throw in something?
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, most people that I'm following, they are pretty skeptical about USDT. You just mentioned, you're good with it. Just wondering, and I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, it's the biggest out of the stable coins. So just wondering why you don't see a big issue with them. We don't know if they have enough backing of the coins. I think that's the biggest issue, right? That people say they don't have enough US dollars to back the actual whatever, the 81 billion or whatever it is. So just what's your take on it, if I may ask, and if we have time for that?
Yeah, I think my answer is pretty simple. I think the answer is that they are the original stablecoin, right? So they are the first stablecoin in the crypto space, and they've never broken the peg. So it's the Lindy effect, right? Since the day it started, there have been haters, and I was on that bandwagon too. I was like, if the system's going to break, it's going to be Tether that's going to break. And I had many years where I was like very, very reluctant to transact in Tether, but the longer something's been around, it doesn't break. You start to create a bit of a Lindy, and yeah, there's been plenty of chances for Tether to go down, and it has not gone down. So I have no other reason other than that.
Were they the ones that at one point?
Sorry, was that you, Tony? I think I heard you.
Interest in sorry, that's me.
Yeah.
There's a big I think they were Chinese real estate group that was on the verge, that was shaky. What was their name again?
Evergrande.
Yeah.
Evergrande.
Yeah. What was it? UST there was concern that there was some paper tied to that at some
Yeah, it was USDT, but there was nothing ever came out of it. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. So once again, it's there's tons of news like that, right? Rumors, but in the end, like USDT just keeps going. So, and they have attestations, and that's not the same thing as being audited, but they have attestations that that they have their reserves. They say they didn't hold any of that Chinese paper. But at the end of the day, Evergrande did default, but US Tether just kept on going. So it's like I understand the criticisms of it, but at the end of the day, like it's hard to argue. I think crypto, the whole industry, is so behind Tether. Like there's so many parties that actually interact in Tether that in a weird way, I think it sort of makes it institutionalized. I just can't see a day where look at Binance, like that's all pretty much every single major centralized exchange, the perpetuals are denominated in Tether, right? FTX, Binance, any major exchange with the futures contract, it's all denominated in Tether. So, it doesn't seem to be. They don't seem to have any concern around that. So, it could be one of those things where it's a black swan, and maybe it's not even a black swan because it could have been predicted, and then it takes on the whole thing. But yeah, it's one of those things.
Okay. No, thanks.
Yeah. I wish I had more to offer than that, but like, I've been concerned about Tether since 2017. so at a certain point, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you can be skeptical, but at a certain point, like, yeah, that's just the way the things are going. So I don't like USDC personally. Like, my stance on decentralization. I don't care for a centralized entity, to be making stable coins. Like, that's the world we live in now.
They control all the tulip bulbs. You're screwed, right?
Yeah, like that's what we live in now. Like, why are we trying to reproduce the same thing in crypto? So, like, why not just buy JP Morgan coins? Like JP Morgan coins, it's the same thing. So I'm sure it's going to exist. I think some banks will probably get in the space, and they will issue stable coins, and they will probably the people will have confidence in that because they'll probably have a full backing with US dollars. But yeah, I think it's. I think the decentralized coins, I think they're most interesting, right? Which is a little scary because they're mostly algorithmic. But I think again, it's one of those things where if people have significant enough backing, like we've seen so far with the hacks, like you have $600 million hack in Ronin, you have a $300+ million, $400 million hack in Wormhole. You have big guys with big pockets step up and actually fill those holes. I think we'd probably see the same thing happen if something were to happen to some of these stable coins. Right, so there are people who have a vested self-interest to actually protect the system, which in a weird way is not that different from traditional finance, right? Like, we know what happens, like the crash of 1929 when the stock market went down in the United States. The old story and the old lore is, who came walking on the floor to save the day? It's old man Morgan, right? So JP Morgan literally steps on the floor, goes in the middle of the trading floor, and starts issuing buy orders to prop up the stock market. Right. So, yeah, I think it's not that different than what we're seeing here now, where you have these very, very large entities, right? Like the folks who bailed out the Wormhole guys. Who's that? It's a Jump Capital. Yeah, Jump Capital. They basically just bought $300 million worth of ether to plug the hole. They just had that on their books, right? They just had it on their balance sheet, ready to go, just like liquid. There's liquid assets, right, to fill it up. So yeah,
it's also their own interests, right?
Exactly. It's their own. That's what I'm talking about. It's their own interests. Like, that's what people are going to do, right? If it's their own interests, they're going to step up and protect the thing. So if Tether breaks, some people are going to step up and actually protect their interests, versus letting it just fall to the ground, right? Burn to the ground.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So
it's an impressive list if you go to the Rekt. REKT.
Yeah, that's a good site.
Leaderboard. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Google REKT. REKT. Is it Rekt Finance? Is that the site?
Rekt. REKT. Yeah, and then click on leaderboard, and you get the top of the list is Ronin at 626 million or 24 million.
Yeah, that's a good size hack.
yeah. Wormhole was only 326. So
only 300 million.
Yeah.
Peanuts. Yeah.
But guys, sorry, I'm intrigued by these chain hacks. What do these people that hack 600 million in US dollar value, what do they do with the coins? I mean, they can't just transfer it to Kraken or Coinbase or to their bank. I don't know. I mean, Houston, fill me in, or whoever, help me out on that one.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and a good case in point was the Mount Gox hack, which is years ago. All the Bitcoin that got stolen from the first exchange, it was a centralized exchange, right? And they finally caught up with them just this past year, because the addresses, if you can follow it, the hacker trick is that if you can get the money and then disperse it quickly to a bunch of different addresses and try and create a difficult trail, but the trail is there. That's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
If
that was actually the Bitphoenix hack. The Bitphoenix hack, because Mt. Gox was they haven't tracked all those funds down yet. The Bitphoenix hack was the New York couple that they busted.
Oh, was it? I thought they were at Mt. Gox.
No, the Bitphoenix. Yeah.
No, it's a Phoenix one.
Yeah. Oh, okay, my mistake. Yeah,
same thing though.
Same idea. Yeah, there's the chain leaves a trail, so it's in a lot of the cases, if you're a white hat hacker, that means that you're hacking things to help people find their flaws, and that's what Nick was pointing out was the ransom, right? So they've got these bounties out to find holes in the code, and if you hack it and steal the money, well, then yeah, we'll pay you this ransom, or not ransom, this bounty for, to give it back.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money in that way too.
Yeah, I think if you're doing a huge hack, like we saw with Wormhole, or even Garona's obviously is an amazing size hack. But I think if you're lucky as the hacker, you might get 10% out of that, right? Like if you move really really fast and you're able to move it, especially if it's an Ethereum based chain, you can try to funnel it through Tornado Cash. You might be able to get at most 10% out of that, right? To obfuscate it and then anonymize it so that you don't get busted. But most of the time, yeah, there's no way that that an attacker is getting the full amount of that hack, right? It's usually 10% of the hack if they're lucky, which is often why you see that a lot of the hackers will ask for an incentive to give back the money, and they may demand like a 10% quote unquote reward for giving back the stolen funds. But in the case of the Ronin, the difference is that these guys are legitimate, state level actors, right? So Lazarus is now the group that's been attributed for that hack. Yeah, I don't think those guys have any intention of giving it back. So they've already blocked all the addresses known to owned by Lazarus. But I think we're seeing here now is that, yeah, you have literally state level actors now hacking crypto wallets, right, and crypto projects. So the amount of security you should expect, that you need to secure yourself is like, you need to be able to protect yourself against state level actors, which is significantly higher than most most people are used to dealing with, right? Like most people aren't used to like going toe to toe against North Korea. And we're seeing the North Korean hackers, they go after individual users, not just projects, right? So if you're a very flashy, well-known person and you're flaunting yourself on, Twitter, and you show your wallet, they will go after you, right? Through spearheading attacks and all that kind of stuff. So wild world it's and I think this is why we're still very early in DeFi, because there has to be some solutions that ultimately get created that allow people to better self-custody and protect themselves. Otherwise, what's going to happen is people are just going to default to the most convenient solution, and that's to basically allow a centralized entity to protect themselves, right? Protect them, right? So why do I want to get hacked? I'll just let Coinbase hold all my assets. But then again, that defeats the whole purpose of crypto.
Decentralized,
yeah.
Well, it's a good
Thanks
segue.
for elaborating, guys.
It's a good segue with respect to I think next month you want me to go over Radix as part of a meeting in May.
Yeah, well, we can talk about Radix with their team and see how they want to get involved in like that in-person thing, because they may be able to socialize and promote that event with their group of their audience.
I'll put it out here for you guys to. But I'm trying to organize an in-person meetup in the West Island.
Yeah,
just because that's where I can find a venue that's quickly suitable, but mid-May, like a Tuesday night at a pub, and we'll pick up some drinks and some food and do an intro in person. But we can do it also on the DeFi Montreal meet if you want as well, just a quick intro. But that's the nice thing about the Radix network in terms of the hackability or what they've done differently.
So maybe you and I, Tony, can talk about it maybe on the side, like, because I think I don't know if you want to still do the online event as well as the in-person one. Like that's we can talk about that offline, but and
totally
we can coordinate that. Yeah. Because I think I don't know if you want to stream some of that stuff too. That's a possibility where you can also if you're gonna have an internet connection at the live event, maybe you can also stream it in person.
Stream it live. That's true. That's I've never done that before. That would be exciting.
Yeah. So just 2 more slides, and then we'll wrap things up because it's nearly 8 o'clock. So I'll just do 2 more. Last, we all know right now that crypto is basically correlated to the stock market. It's wherever the stock market goes, that's where crypto is going to go right now. I think over the past month or so, you had points within a 24-hour period. We had like a 0.8 correlation between Bitcoin and the NASDAQ. So like we're talking very, very correlated down to the 5-minute chart. So essentially Bitcoin just slightly front runs the NASDAQ right now. So it just tells you that a lot of traders are using it as a proxy for high tech beta. And so, they can trade 24 hours a day, and then you use it to hedge their high tech exposure. So that's the way that crypto's trading right now. Very, very correlated to equities. And, that's the tell. when it breaks, when that correlation breaks, then I think maybe crypto can have its own cycle. But until it breaks, expect more of the same. And then just I think two more. Let's just go for a little forward here. I'll just talk about these last two chains here, and then we'll wrap it up. So, sorry, exchange, but exchanges. Because I think it's interesting because I don't know how much you guys use centralized exchanges versus DEXs, but here's the stats. So it's always good to know the players in the space, so you know kind of what the trend is. But right now, as the trend goes, you can see the volume. Right, we're going into a bear market. How do you know? Well, we're already in a bear market. Not just we're going into it, but you can see from October, we're at $1.9 trillion in volume. Back in the kind of the bull market, the halcyon days of the bull market, and now we're down to $1.1 trillion of trading volume, right, per month. So the interest from retail has basically dropped, right? So we nearly cut it in half. It's like half the amount of volume we had several months ago. So the interest has certainly waned, and so it's definitely no longer, even though it kind of seems mainstream because it's all over Twitter. There's some pockets of people who are no longer participating anymore, right? So there's less of a retail pump behind things. Now, just to get the names, know the names, right? Binance still the by volume the most liquid exchange by a long shot, right? 46%, always hangs in there at the upper 40s, mid 40s, followed by OKX. That's a Chinese exchange. They've been losing market share steadily because China has basically banned crypto trading. And then Coinbase. So Coinbase is, again, they've actually been falling quite a bit as well. Look in Q1, they're down 8%. Then crypto.com. I never used that before. A lot of people do use it. Very popular name. Qcoin, great exchange if you don't want to do any KYC. If you want to buy coins that are, let's say, sub $100 million market caps, you're looking for like small, like low float or small cap coins. FTX, hanging in there. Bitmart, don't know that one. Gate, growing. Wobi, another Chinese exchange, and Kraken, kind of hanging tight. And final slide, and we'll wrap things up. We'll open it up afterwards. Any questions? Is the DEXs. So who's the big boy? Yeah, Uniswap, V3 and V2. So in combination, they're like 55% of the overall volume in DEXs goes to Uniswap. So Uniswap certainly the big dog, followed by Pancake Swap, which is what Nick talked about. Pancake Swap is mostly on BSC, Binance. They don't call it BSC anymore; they call it BNB or something, or Binance Chain. Serum is on Solana. Spooky Swap's on Phantom. Astroport is on Terra. And Sushi Swap,
I think
across.
It should say top 10 decentralized exchanges on the top, right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I said DEX here, but I didn't change that part there. Yeah, it should say DEX, decentralized exchanges. Yep. Thanks for catching that. And I think that's that's the top 5, so we can leave it there. So those are your DEXs that are the most popular. All right. So that's a wrap. So unfortunately, we did have quite a few technical difficulties today. So that's the learning experience. We're gonna have to do better next time to find a more reliable platform. So that's unfortunate, but one step at a time. We'll get better each time. So I apologize for the folks who did get kicked off and had to log back in or couldn't log back in at all. But final slide, if you want, here's some resources. And DefiSafety's link there. And this, I'll send this slide out tomorrow as well, along with the recording, if I can get it pasted together. CoinGecko, I have the link to the report that I screenshotted. You can go right to the link there and get that report.